So welcome to my review of Capcom Arcade Second Stadium. And this is available for PS4, Nintendo Switch, Steam, and Xbox One. Now they released the first Capcom Arcade Stadium last year, and I thought it was amazing. A lot of the old classic arcade games in one. And this is kind of a follow-up with some more arcade games, and there's some differences because some of the games in Capcom Fighting Collection here are also included, so I'll try to show you some of the differences. But what we get here is 32 classic Capcom arcade games. So what this is your own personal arcade with all those old Capcom games. And the one thing that I really like is that you have all the games in there and you can adjust the size and color of the arcade cabinets. So if you remember like a game like Magic Sword back in the day, which is included in this collection, you can adjust it to how it may have looked in the arcade for you back then. So you can create really small arcade machines or really big ones, and as I say, get the color that represented that game for you back in the day. Now there's a whole bunch of different modes included, just like the first Stadium that was released, and they're all back right here. And so you can play the games in full screen, widescreen, you can flip the screen, you can kind of do anything you want with the screen, and that's really cool if you want to play on certain monitors and things like that. Games that are vertical and horizontal, whichever way that you want them, you can play them this way. Now all of the filters are back as well to give you the look that you want. For me personally, I didn't use any filters for this. I like the original off, for me, but there are filters there to emulate the look of what it would look like back on a screen in the arcade back in the day. So you can go through them all and find the preference that you like best, and there is quite a few different preferences there. Another feature that's really, really handy, especially for some of those old arcade games, is a rewind feature. So say you're going through a level and you get destroyed and you're like, oh no, I wish I didn't do that stupid move that I just did. You can rewind it 10 seconds and try it again. That's included in a lot of these collections nowadays, and I really, really appreciate that. There's online leaderboards to see how you stack up against other people throughout the world, and there's 4-player local multiplayer. And what's fascinating here is there's a lot of games that we've never gotten over here, and you can go through the list, and some games you can only play the Japanese versions of them because there's no American version of them, but both versions are included if there was a US release and Japanese release, so you can switch between both different versions. And I like seeing the different naming that was going on there for a lot of these different games. Obviously, Rockman, the Power Battle, and Mega Man, the Power Battle, as an example. So let me go through the entire list of games here, and then I'll talk about some games that are my favorite included in this collection. So we've got Sun Sun, Savage Bees, Gunsmoke, The Speedrunner, Sidearms, that's a real good old classic, and there's Hisatsu, Baraiken, Black Tiger, Street Fighter 1, good classic game, that's been also in the Street Fighter collections there, Tiger Road, 1943 Kai, Last Duel, Lead Storm, Magic Swords, Three Wonders, The King of Dragons, Block, Knights of the Round, Saturday Night Slam Masters, Eco Fighters, Panickies, Darkstalkers, Night Warriors, Street Fighter Alpha, Mega Man the Power Battle, Street Fighter Alpha 2, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, Mega Man 2 The Power Fighters, Vampire Savior, Capcom Sports Club, Super Gem Fighter, Street Fighter Alpha 3, and Hyper Street Fighter 2. So there's a lot of games in there. As I say, I'm not going to review every single game, but I'm going to talk about some games now that are my favorites in this collection, and one that makes me happy that this collection is out. Now, the first game I'm going to mention is called Magic Sword, and I remember this from my local arcade up the street from me. I would go there every single day to play Street Fighter, but I would always play Magic Sword with my friends, and a medieval style hack and slash adventure where you can unlock your friends and you keep going up and up the tower to get to the very top. And I love the graphics. I think the graphics still hold up really, really well. Very cartoony and just a lot of fun. Okay, a lot of these games are medieval style in nature, and that's, I think, why I like them so much. And I love the King of Dragons. I absolutely adore this game. Another classic game from back in the heyday where you would play with your friends in the arcade. Yes, they're all hack and slashes, but there was just something very charming about the graphical look and just the setting. I really, really love the setting of these games. And I gotta mention Knights of the Round. I mean, a few of these games came to the Super Nintendo back in the day as well, but Knights of the Round is another classic beat 'em up hack and slash, and I love these games, and Capcom was well renowned for creating games like this. That's what they did back then, and they were the masters, and that's why I was happy to see these games included in the collection. And we get Saturday Night Slam Masters, a personal favorite of mine, one that I'm very nostalgic about. Walking into the local arcades, when I would see that game, I was like, whoa, because Capcom was already doing things like Final Fight and stuff like that. They had proved themselves with the sprites. And then you saw a wrestling game, and I was a big WWF fan, later into WWE. I love that stuff. So seeing some of the characters were looking like Hulk Hogan going on there, I really appreciated that. And you got Hager from Final Fight included, big wrestling style of game. I loved it, and I thought at the time, video games can't get better than this. And you know what? Looking back, I still really, really appreciate this game. And yes, like the Capcom Fighting Collection right here, we have the Darkstalkers games. But I gotta say, we only had the first few games. It's not like on the Capcom Fighting Collection. There's only a couple of games included here. So if you bought the Capcom Fighting Collection and you're like, oh wait, the games are included on this, only a few of them are. There's a lot of games on that Capcom Fighting Collection that you can only get over there. But some of the Darkstalkers games are here. And you know what? It's kind of nice to have it next to Street Fighter and all of that. And of course, Mega Man, the Power Battle. This is my friend Rob's, one of his favorite arcade games back in the day, and it was so amazing to see the NES Famicom great Mega Man Rockman game come to life in arcades, in beautiful looking graphics. I mean, you'd never seen anything like that, taking that, original 8-bit character and turning it into these beautiful arcade graphics that we were seeing then. Wow, we were blown away, and I think the size of the characters on the screen and just the background details and the animation really sold you. And one game, Mega Man 2, The Power Fighters, is included, and this is a game that I must admit, I've never really played, and I've had a chance to really play it a little bit more, and I'm like, this is a good follow-up to the Power Battle, and it's really neat to see one of these style of games included, so I'm happy to have both of the Power Battle games included for Mega Man, and of course you can switch it to the Japanese versions of Rockman for the title there. And we have Street Fighter Alpha 1, 2, and 3 included in this collection. Very happy to see them there. Classic games that I grew up with. I played them mostly on the PS1, those particular versions. These are the arcade versions, and I want to say they were also included in the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary collection right here. But again, I'm kind of happy to have my little mini arcade and have these games all included in one. So very nice to play the Alpha series. Again, my favorite in the series is still Alpha 2. Alpha 3 is really good, and Alpha 1 is very, very nostalgic now. So the interesting thing here is that you can buy the full game, right? You can buy the full game, all of the games are included, or you can just buy single games for like $3.99. I think they go for. You can get them for that. I did the kind of math, and it kind of makes more sense to buy the official game because you're playing double if you want all of the games, and maybe you only want 2 or 3 of the games, and I definitely understand that. And if that's the case, that will really work for you, just buying the single games. But for me, I really, really like all of the old Capcom arcade games, even some of the older ones I still appreciate. Some of them are showing their date a little bit, but they're from my era, so I really, really appreciate them. So what is my final verdict on this? I have a couple of things to say here. I think this is an excellent collection for anybody who grew up with these games and played them in arcades like me. They're all there in all of their glory, and you can play them anyway with filters, different arcade cabinets, a lot of different options, and I'm happy to have them all in one place like this. And coupled with Stadium, the first one, we've got a big chunk of them. Yes, we're missing games like Alien vs. Predator and the Dungeons & Dragons series, licensing problems, we understand that. But for the Capcom IPs, they're really covering their bases here, and I'm really happy to see a lot of the games all in one. And I think it's great for us old schoolers, but also for younger people to come in and see what the great Halo days of the past were like, playing in arcades, the dark arcades back then, and seeing some of the amazingly artistic and wonderful games that were created back then, and so much fun, so many hack and slashes, I know for sure, but they are still a lot of fun to play with friends, and I really recommend them. My only thing, this is funny, my nitpick is an interesting one. I really wish there were physical copies for the first stadium and for the second one here. And I'm inserting myself into this video to say there's been an update on this, on the physical copy version. There is one for second stadium, there is not one for first stadium. It just became available on PlayAsia, so cool to have the second one. Too bad we don't have the first one. Hopefully that changes in time. But I gotta say, for me, what a nostalgic ride, getting to go and play some of these incredible Capcom arcade games of the past, and really cool to relive my childhood once again. So anyways guys, until next time.